It's just kind of there, sprinkled on like some pepper, I don't know, on a potato. You know, I'm just having a bland old baked potato with some pepper on it. Why not? Just give me my potato trek. I'll take some potato trek right now. Who put all these spy cameras here? I have a question for you. And that question is, what is Starfleet? That's the name of this episode of Strange New Worlds, that being Season 3, Episode 7. It is a diegetic name. I'm going to be using the word diegetic in this review a lot. So I'm just going to give you a rundown of what diegetic means. That means it's something that's occurring in universe. If you hear a sound, it's playing around you. If you hear a boop, that's from a panel. If you see a camera angle, that means there's a camera in the room, in universe, in the story. This episode being called What is Starfleet, that means it's the name of the documentary that our character, Beto, has made on Starfleet. Remember so many episodes ago when we saw Beto flying that little drone around, taking camera angles of stuff? POV, point of view. Yeah, he's recording a documentary on Starfleet. And I thought this was an interesting idea when it was first introduced a few episodes ago. And here's where it pays off. This would have been really easy to be a clip show. When I first started this episode, I was thinking, oh no, this is a clip show. The way it's being edited, they're setting it up to be a clip show. It wasn't. Thank you. Not a clip show. This is a new episode. I say new in that way because it's very derivative. It's unoriginal. The originality that you can extract out of this episode is from the the pomp and circumstance of the thing. That being the fact that it's a documentary. It's diegetic, and it's using cameras that are on the Enterprise or on this drone to tell its story. That's basically what you're getting out of this, right? So your mileage may vary. If you're looking for plot, just to get this out of the way, this ain't it. This episode is short, easy to call, obvious, and when I mean short, I mean when I saw the runtime, it was like the credits were rolling at like 38 minutes, and I was like, whoa, what? That can't be right. How short is this episode? It felt short, which is not always a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when it's light on actual content, story, things to think about. Let's go with What is Starfleet? I'm putting in the tape. Get ready, class. I'm rolling out that thing. You remember that? How old are you? I'm rolling out that cart with the television on it in the VCR. We're putting the tape in. What are we watching? We're watching What is Starfleet. Hopefully we're going to make some future Starfleet officers out of a few of you guys. Or not, if you watch this and think it's stupid. But, like I said earlier, your mileage may vary. So let's hit the play button and let it roll. Beto is the creator, director of this documentary, and we even see a disclaimer at the beginning, which I thought was a very nice choice. When I turned on the stream for this episode, I was like, for a single second, I was thinking, what is this? There's like a disclaimer, and it says that in the interest of transparency, Starfleet has declassified the materials in this documentary, and I just thought, that was so cute just to start it off like that. They're really going all the way. And it even has its own little intro for the documentary. And the documentary is shot in the way that you would think it would be shot. It's shot with the same camera angles you'd be used to from a contemporary point of view from where you live in your century. Musically, that follows. The performances are to the camera, breaking the fourth wall, to the point, which... I mean, frankly, these performances, they would be better in a regular episode than a documentary because they were so serious. Because when that camera's on, you're different. You become a different person. You exit reality. You enter hyper-reality. And, I mean, it's commendable, the performances that are on offer here. Because our actors go from playing their character to playing a character who's playing a character. It's not that easy. You see, let's say Anson Mount plays the captain, that being Captain Pike. He has to play the captain as well as playing the captain who was on camera in this documentary, who was acting more like the captain than he would normally act. and they do pull it off. It's a subtle difference, but you can watch it and you can see that these characters are aware of the camera. When they're playing their character, they have to pretend that they're not aware of the camera. In this documentary, What is Starfleet, they have to play their character who is not aware of the camera recording the Star Trek episode, but they're aware of the camera who is recording the documentary. Watch it like that and see what you can take away in regards to performances. Because, I mean, to be frank, you're not getting that much else here. You're getting the visuals. You're getting these performances. If you're down for really cool performances with these characters, if you love these characters, you're probably going to love this episode. Plot-wise, like I said, we established that there's a war going on. There's Lutani and Kassar. And Lutani, it would have been really easy to switch these numbers, because Lutani has lost 9 million in this war. Okay? In this war in the Lutani system. I don't know who the aggressor originally was. I don't know if it really went into that. But Kassar has lost like 190,000 or something like that. It's under 1 million. Under 1 million casualties versus 9 million casualties. So Starfleet has been sent to help the Lutani. As you would. But things get complicated, you see. From this point on, you could probably call, if you've seen a lot of Star Trek, like I have, you could probably call all the little twists, right? Because we get to Lutani, and we're supposed to give them a bioweapon. It's a living animal that we need to essentially tow to their world. They need a weapon for war. The weapon is an animal. We're getting it from Tychus B, I think. It's an oceanic creature that can fly into space. Very cool, but it's not the first space animal we've seen. And we need to take it to the proper location, keep its distance from the Enterprise, because it is dangerous. And what do you think this plot would work out as? Well, how do you think this would work out? Say you're me. You've seen everything. You've seen, okay, what is this, a Horta? Is this a Gumtu? Is this a jellyfish from Farpoint? What is this? Is this a crystalline entity? What kind of space animal is this going to be? Well, do you think that it's a good idea to use these animals in war? Right? Do you think we're going to find out that this animal, what is it? Jakara, something like that. This animal, do you think it's going to be a willing participant? Do you think it's going to have actual murderous intent? Or do you think it's just going to be an animal who just, I don't know, I'm just going where I'm shoved? Or do you think it's going to have like an emotional breakdown about being, used as a weapon? Which one do you think it is? Which one is going to cause the most drama? If you write everything with regards to what's causing the most drama, what's going to cause the most intrigue, it becomes predictable. Because we only like so many stories, right? There's only so many things that can happen here unless you're really, really creative. And they're kind of not. Our new Trek crew is unfathomably good at production. They can produce an episode that looks physically better than anything you've ever seen, sounds better than anything you've ever seen, but their talent is kind of that's where they're starting from, and from there they're kind of a rock rolling downhill. I'll just put it that way. This episode is no different. It's very, to put it bluntly, style over substance. Not always a bad thing. Sometimes super stylish things are cool, and this episode is stylish. We eventually realize that when this Lutani, the creature that the Lutanis need to defend themselves in this war, gets off this planet, a Lutani vessel actually comes to intercept it. This isn't supposed to be here, and the animal destroys the Lutani vessel. We beam one of the survivors aboard, only to have them say that this experiment, this project with this animal, actually was a mistake. So there's your first fly in the ointment. What's going on here? We're getting a hint that maybe we shouldn't be transporting this animal, even though Starfleet said so. And by the way, we mostly listen to Starfleet in this episode. This episode, unfortunately, is suffering from a plot that is written backwards. Okay? We're making this documentary from the point of view of a character who's critical about Starfleet. Right? Therefore, our characters have to keep referring to Starfleet, and all of a sudden we're just following orders. Every other time, we would disregard orders or not call Starfleet. Now we are, because we need to design this plot backwards. You understand what I mean? We needed a plot that made Starfleet look questionable. So now we care about what Starfleet thinks, and now we contact Starfleet every 5 seconds. And now we say the word classified like 100 times. It's written backwards, right? It's not a normal episode of Star Trek that this documentary is looking at. It's an episode that is designed to make you wonder about, what is the moral fabric of Starfleet, right? The challenge here should have been writing an episode that could have just been any episode, right? Not an episode that is specifically designed to be shot as a documentary. Again, you're inverting reality, right? So in this documentary, without knowing it, and this is very meta, the documentary What is Starfleet is not really viewing Starfleet, it's viewing a hyper Starfleet, that being a Starfleet that is an abstraction on top of the Starfleet that we normally interact with. So now we're using the word, like I said, classified. We're now contacting Starfleet for updates. We're thinking about whether or not what we're doing is the right idea, and we're questioning it. We have Una talking about, I don't care what I feel about it. The orders are the orders. Things that you normally wouldn't hear, honestly, in Strange New Worlds as of yet, but here we are. We're in a Hyper Starfleet abstraction on top of Starfleet. Sorry for the confusion, but I promise you it means something. It means something for the finer points of this episode. And if you're going into this for a roller coaster ride, if you just want to have a good time, you're probably going to have an okay time. You're probably just going to be able to go into it and just fly through it, whatever. I'm just going to be honest with you. And most of these things will not reflect in my final score, because I know when something's personal and I know when something's objective, and I can separate the two, and I can look at the final product and tell you what this really means or what it doesn't. We try to mind meld with this creature. Spock tries it in a shuttle. It's considered an acceptable risk. Your opinion may vary. Spock is being a psionic type character, being a Vulcan. If you didn't know, they have these psionic powers that they use on certain occasions, and given that this creature also has that kind of power to project it through space in a radiation wave, as we saw earlier, Spock can kind of mind meld at a distance, right? Not unlike with V'ger, say. If you've seen Star Trek the Motion Picture, not to get too far adrift here, Spock kind of fails this mind meld. You see, the creature's powers are so in advance of Spock's that Spock's brain is essentially damaged, and Spock needs to be put by Mbenga into a coma to let his brain heal. So Spock is now out of the equation. But you see, Uhura has figured out that, I'm actually not psionic. So what if we just try to do it with a regular human who was not as sensitive? Maybe they could handle it, right? You see, you use the opposite kind of logic on that, and there is some sense in it, and that is how our episode unfolds and how we eventually prevail, saving the day, in a sense. This shock collar that we're supposed to put on it, we're supposed to shoot a torpedo with a neural dampener into it. Chapel deduces this is more like a shock collar, right? It's something that is meant to rein this animal in against its own best wishes. Instead of just putting it to sleep, we're hurting it. And it is eventually discovered that this animal has undergone genetic mutation. I think Mbenga brings this up. This animal is from a metamorphosis project, I believe is what Pike says. It has been genetically altered to fight. And we need to keep this shock collar on it to keep it reined in. And then we need to give this animal that otherwise has its own emotions and opinions to the Lutani to save them from their enemy. And the Lutani, their casualties vastly outweigh those of their adversary. So, like I said earlier, if you were paying attention, I said that they had 9 million casualties. So we're asking the audience, 9 million casualties? Are you gonna enslave these creatures against your enemies who've only lost like 100 and some thousand? That's the sticking point here. That's the question that you're going to be left with to ask yourself in your mind, voluntarily or not, after this episode ends. And it's good for an episode to have something like that to chew on. As I said earlier, it would have been really easy just to make the Lutani look like absolute bad guys and say that the Lutani have no casualties. Actually, they had huge casualties. Eventually, the Federation does admit that we will help you, just in other ways. It remains to be seen what those are. We're probably never going to see it. I assume this is a one-off episode. we follow this creature away. It's getting away. Should we follow it? Should we tractor beam it? We decide to follow it away, and we have to make it look like we're not doing anything special. We send out a warning beacon to stay away from us. Don't worry, it's not a weapon, guys. There's nothing here to steal. And after we eventually decide to do this secondary mind meld from inside the Enterprise with this neural link device between Uhura and the creature, Uhura being the communications officer, maybe she's qualified to try to talk to an alien like this. I'm not sure, but anyway, we eventually allow her to do it under the watchful eye of Mbenga and Beto, who had just got into a bit of a kerfuffle with Uhura when in a 1-to-1 that was kind of shot with, what do they call it, guerrilla photography, where you hide the camera and they don't really know it's there. That's how you get the real good stuff. Uhura figures out that, oh no, Beto's here for a purpose. Beto has an angle here. Beto has a dog in this race. She asks, "Are you recording this?" And of course, Beto was in a very intimate moment, which is bad. It shines bad on Beto. I ended up not loving Beto here for doing these things. It's not ethical, but it does get you a good story, and people are interested in a good story. Although I think Starfleet themselves has authorized this documentary. So do they have the final cut? Can they cut things out? Is everything we saw in this documentary, being what is Starfleet, is everything that was left in it therefore authorized by Starfleet? Is this therefore Starfleet's opinion, this documentary, because they had the final cut? I'm not sure, but it is, if you take it for what it's worth and take it being as a totally diegetic media inside this universe, it is curious what they left in. They left in a lot of scuzzy and scary stuff, and they left in a lot of really personal, emotional moments that beggar belief if it would actually occur in a documentary in the universe of Star Trek. They do get into a fight. There was some kind of lovers thing going on between Beto and Uhura, and everybody's in love with each other in this season, so it just kind of gets lost in the swamp of love, the swamp of romance. But it was sad seeing Uhura and Beto kind of being on the rocks. But Beto does visit Uhura when she's having her mind meld moment, which seems very dangerous because it looks like she's under stress doing this with the animal. And it is eventually revealed that this creature wants to die, right? It doesn't want to be used as a weapon. And it wants Starfleet to make sure that its offspring, who are still on that planet, what was it, Tychus B, to be kept safe, to be kept from more procedures like this. The Lutani were altering these creatures for war, like I said. So your opinion on that is entirely your own. And we do call Starfleet. And Starfleet eventually always makes the right choices in this episode. Starfleet says, yeah, we're not going to let them take this animal. Okay, good. It would have been cool if in some previous episodes we called Starfleet, instead of just flying by the seat of our pants, call Starfleet, and then Starfleet eventually say to do what we were going to do anyway. Sometimes I think we disregard Starfleet just for fun in these episodes, just because it's dramatic. Just call them. There's a significant chance in the past few episodes of this season that Starfleet would have just said go ahead with a lot of these things. Not shuttle to Kenfori, but I mean the last episode, certainly, they probably would have just said, you know what, not to get too off track here, they probably would have just said, you know what, Farragut, you're really close to the Enterprise, you saw it get taken away, you got a skeleton crew, that's not a big risk, you go after it, we're going to be coming behind you, but you're going to be on point. That's probably what would have happened. Not to dig up the Salat who ate its tail, which was a better episode, but in this episode, because this is an episode that is a documentary about Starfleet, we have to keep talking to Starfleet. So we keep asking them what to do, and they keep conveniently saying to do the right thing. In this case, which is not allowing the Lutani, despite their casualties, to keep engineering these animals for war. The animal says that it wants to be taken to the sun of this system. Uh-oh, you know what that means. It's going to, go into the sun and then not be alive anymore. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more, say no more. It begs, begs the question, if you were just going to destroy yourself, why couldn't you just allow the Enterprise to blow you up? Maybe part of its engineering on behalf of Lutani was to make it automatically defend itself, and flying into the sun was a workaround? I don't know. There's different ways you can think about that, but I'm just going to go with what they chose and assume that it wanted to go into the sun. for any reason, and it's not our position to impose on how it should cease to exist. So I'm just going to say, you know what, fine. If you want to fly into the sun, you go right ahead. We're not following you, but we'll be watching to celebrate with drinks. Not really. We're all very sad. And that's how our documentary ends, and that's how the episode ends, staring at this sun. We see the Jaguar, whatever it is, fly into the sun and disappear in a poof of energy. And we see as Uhura and our crewmates, passionately look on, possibly having a tear in the eye. That's how our episode ends. Yes, it's very short. It's shorter than the average episode. But I don't know if you really could have added anything to this and make it better, because this was really padded out with scenes that cut into the documentary itself, where characters are introducing themselves, what they think, what they feel directly to the camera, as you would in the documentary. The things that you normally see in a documentary of any sort appear here. The same cutting, the same style of editing, the same style of camera angles are all on display here. We have a lot of tight POV shots. We have a lot of cameras somewhere else zoomed in on people's faces. We have cameras aiming down at the bridge from a weird angle that we normally don't get. It is intriguing on the visual element, I'm not going to lie. There was a lot here for me to chew on visually, and a little bit in terms of plot. This is a small plot spread over too much bread, if you want to put it that way. We see character introductions from Pike, Uhura, Spock. Spock talks about how he's half Vulcan, and the human half was seen as a detriment on Vulcan, because I would assume it makes your culinary very difficult. So we get a sob story from Spock. We get a sob story from Uhura. We get a sob story from Pike. Now that I think about it, everybody's kind of introduction is just a sob story. And a primary sob story being Beto, because Uhura kind of confronts Beto. You came in here with an angle. You had a dog in this race. You blame Starfleet for taking away your sister, that being Ortegas. And I take it that the fact that this was left in the final edit of this documentary, that it was true. I take it that Beto leaving that in here meant it was real, which is an odd twist for a documentary to reflect back on the creator and their story, which you would never see in a documentary. That's actually a big no-no. If you're making a documentary, you want to disappear. You shouldn't see behind the camera ever in a documentary, for it to be truthful and honest. We're breaking that rule here. Really think about it if you want to. If you don't want to think about it, you can have some fun here. But if you're thinking about it, it is very odd to have that left inside the documentary. And we do see the camera, the drone, zooming in on Beto's face. It looks like he's about to cry when Uhura tells him what he already knew but couldn't admit to himself. You came here to yell at Starfleet because they took your sister away. Is that true? It's true. That's what's going on here. He should have said, no, I just want the truth. Then what? Beto is just a kid, I guess, not very mature, which makes one wonder how he was authorized to make this official documentary. It really makes you think. It really gets the noggin jogging. Pike talks about how one time he had to put down an injured horse or something. Not something he wanted to do. He gets questioned about what it's like to see someone die. He didn't want to be questioned about that. Leanne gets questioned about would you fire on the Gorn first if you saw them. We see her wearing a very disastrously dark uniform, shooting at some drones, as you would. All very scary, all very spooky. No doubt on Beto's behalf, trying to make Starfleet look scarier than it actually is. After all, what is the difference between a Federation and an Empire? What's the difference between a starship and a warship? Turns out not that much, actually, because it depends on what you do with it. These things are tools, Beto. Depends on what you do. A tool can look scary, or it can look nice, depending on the person using it. To quote Star Trek Discovery, I think in the last episode, don't we see one of the progenitors talk about a brick? Spoilers, a brick could build a house or be thrown through a window. Isn't that what they say? Has anyone here seen Discovery, the final season? That's not what it was called, Discovery, the final season. It was the final season of Star Trek Discovery. So the point here is that it depends on how you look at it, right? Is it a starship or a warship? Are we imposing laws on people, or are we just helping people? I believe the documentary, as it ends, shines a positive light on Starfleet. Otherwise, Starfleet wouldn't authorize it. They would have deleted it. I would hope not. That was what is Starfleet. Not much of an episode, but it's one I may come back to just because it was a little bit of a feast for the eyes. It would have been cool to get some more ship shots, but then again, it's going to be hard to fly one of these drones outside the ship. It would have been cool if we had a shuttle following the ship, getting all the camera angles. The episode, in an effort to seem extremely realistic, has actually seemed more fake than normal, because we're shining a light on how fake otherwise the regular episode would feel in comparison. This episode, being a documentary, has angled itself to be more of like a more brutalist and dark tone than you would otherwise be used to from this specific season, because we had to make Starfleet look questionable, because we had to make the audience question whether or not Starfleet was doing the right thing, even though we knew it was going to from the very beginning. So the primary effort here to make it look like there could be a question has largely fallen on deaf ears. It's not really on display here. There's nothing really for you to question. If you've seen Star Trek before, you knew that this animal was an unwilling participant. You knew that, right? You knew that going in, or you didn't because you've never seen anything before, which is fine. If you haven't seen Star Trek before, this is not a bad entry point for an episode. It's the plot is not super complex. You see the characters in a gray light, directly talking to the camera, saying what they're doing, saying what this show, what Starfleet is. It's not a super terrible latching on point, but they're going to be left wondering, hold on, is this whole show just taking place on security cameras? No, it's not. We get a lot more cinema for your buck the more you watch this, and that's definitely true for a lot of New Trek. New Trek is very cinematic, let me tell you, and not always for for the better. Sometimes it's just having regular old camera angles is good. Sometimes just seeing people talk to each other in a room is good. Not everything needs to be a freaking roller coaster. This episode, however, visually, like I said, I'm going to call it a win. Could have used some more shots of ships, but all these different camera angles makes things look really different. It really sets itself apart, and it ends up being, frankly, in my opinion, an experimental episode that for once in this season, and for this whole show in general, Strange New Worlds, being good. It's a good experiment. It sounds like something that could actually happen. We're filming a documentary about Starfleet, so let's show all these camera angles that we don't normally see. Good experiment. You wanted to experiment with Strange New Worlds? This one's pretty good. It remains to be seen how that puppet episode's going to work, but this one, without getting too far afield, in the experimentation front, I think it's a winner. Plot, there's not much going on here. It's exactly what you thought. We've seen this 1,000 times in Star Trek. Stop me if you've seen, there's these two people at odds with each other. Who do we support? Stop me if you've seen, oh, there's an animal that's being taken advantage of. We need to free the animal. It's par for the course. Thematically, who are you helping? The Lutani, whatever it is, they're losing desperately. They're willing to make a last-ditch effort to survive, but we're not willing to go to the point of enslaving another animal. Not just an animal. This is an emotional creature with thoughts of its own. Very different. We're not willing to go to that level. How much of what something is how you use it. That's another thing. I mean, it's all through this episode. What's the difference between a starship and a warship? Right? What's the difference between that animal and a weapon? It's how you use it. Right? I think that's an underlying theme here that's on display. What is your intention? Right? The intention is everything. Very important. And it's on display, but it's not really beating your head over with. beaten over your head with this thing like a big wooden club. It's just kind of there, sprinkled on like some pepper. I don't know, on a potato. You know, I'm just having a bland old baked potato with some pepper on it. Why not? Just give me my potato trek. I'll take some potato trek right now. Fry it up. Let's go. Yum. Visual front, I've already been over that. Looks very nice. Sound-wise, there was some interesting action-packed kind of thumping music at the very beginning, which gave way to pretty much nothing. I would assume that if you're making this totally diegetically, that being using music that was either added in post-production, in the documentary, in universe, you would have had something playing for a lot of different moments in this documentary. However, this documentary is presented as something very serious. So maybe the lack of sound is good. In this one case, maybe it adds to the intensity of the scenes. I don't know. That's up to you. With all this stuff out of the way, I'm going to have to go ahead and say that this episode gets over the finish line. It was better than I thought it was going to be based on the kind of ominous name, What is Starfleet? I thought this was just going to be an episode where people kind of talk to each other in New Trek dialogue about the stars and about finding myself. There is a little bit of that here, mostly from Uhura, the younger character, suggesting that this is like youth dialogue, which is weird because this was the dialogue of adults not so many seasons ago. I just wanted to find myself. I just wanted to feel like I belong. I just wanted to find out what my truth is. And so on and so forth. This episode is getting a 5.5 out of 10. Better than average. 5 being the average. You see, I'm not one of those people that says everything good is between a 9 and a 10. No. The average is 5, right? That means you're getting 50% right, 50% wrong, in a sense. I like to think of it as a finish line, like a race. We just got over the finish line, and then a little bit. 5.5. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I think this review might be almost as long as the episode itself. Not quite. I'm looking at my little timer there, and I'm going to see you next time I see you. So long.